Oftentimes, when game studios close their doors for good, it's pretty clear why. Tumultuous development, poor game reception, or awful management are often to blame. In the case of Midway, however, it was all three. What was once one of the biggest names in the gaming sphere slowly rotted away to become a laughingstock of the market, releasing countless soulless shovelware titles, cancelling any games with a semblance of originality, and underperforming when it mattered most, led to the final years of Midway's life being ones of shame. But that doesn't mean that everything was bad. In the last couple years before bankruptcy, Midway pushed out games in a final attempt to not just salvage the company, but also their reputation. While their attempts did not prove fruitful, maybe time has. Did Midway deserve to be shut down? Does it deserve its status as one of the fallen greats of the industry, or does it deserve a second chance? In order to answer these questions, I'm going to take a look back at 3 of their final titles, all of which received middling to poor reviews, because who knows, maybe Midway deserved better. What better place to start than at the end?
Leave these monkeys to me.
Wheelman was the last game to ever be developed or published by Midway, created in-house at Midway Newcastle with a partnership with Tygon Studios. If you haven't heard of them before, I wouldn't blame you. Founded by none other than Vin Diesel, their sole purpose as a studio is to make games with, you guessed it, Vin Diesel in them. And of course, Wheelman is no different. Set in the beautiful landscape of Barcelona, you take control of Milo Burick, who is an undercover CIA agent. You are tasked with infiltrating the rivaling gangs of the city, using your skills as a driver to gain their trust and eventually take them all down. When discussing Wheelman, it's difficult to avoid the elephant in the room. Yes, you play as Vin Diesel. No, he's not very good. Midway seemingly thought that simply slapping a big name on the box would be enough to sell units, as Vin Diesel isn't the only celebrity I have to talk about in this video, but more on that later. With acting so stiff, I'm sure a mannequin could do a better job, and voice acting as monotonous as a metronome.
Maybe we can work out a payment plan.
You got some cojones coming here!
Sitting through the game's cutscenes is more challenging than the game itself. No matter though, because even if you didn't skip them, you would still struggle to understand what was going on. With a cast of forgettable characters larger than the assortment of cars available, and a plot more convoluted than the Fast and Furious series, even Wikipedia couldn't help to explain the plot of this game. Its unbearable story was most likely a result of its hazardous development. Initially announced in 2006, the game was slated to release the following year. Yeah, after countless delays, the game was just about pushed out. In fact, after Midway filed for bankruptcy. This makes it clear that Wheelman wasn't ready, and its lack of polish is obvious. There are 2 main aspects to Wheelman's gameplay loop, which work together in an attempt to keep the game feeling fresh over its roughly 9 hours. Third-person shooting, and of course, driving. Let's start with the former, as it's clearly only half-baked. Never before have I felt aim assist this strong, and I play Apex with the controller. Your crosshair seemingly magically is placed onto enemies' heads the moment you scope in, requiring you to just press the trigger and they're dead. Enemies are just fodder, indistinguishable in their look and their functionality. These sections of the game are a massive slog to get through, as they feel like nothing more than filler between the driving sections. Speaking of the driving sections, they may be the only polished quality this game has, and as it turns out, that's all they needed. Driving in Wheelman is a blend of Burnout and GTA, and I mean this in every positive way. Cars feel light to control, but incredibly heavy to collide into. The game offers you cars in the open world, which are always at your disposal, but all of this is just a backdrop for the game's principal feature, the air jack. Wheelman attempts to provide players with the closest thing to a Fast and Furious game, valuing quick spectacle with car combat. The air jack is a child of this dream. At any point, you can leap from your vehicle into one just ahead of you, taking control of it and leaving its driver in the dust. It's great, not just because it's actually done well cinematography wise, but also has incredible practical applications. Car about to explode? Air jack. See a quicker vehicle you want? The open world of Barcelona also isn't half bad. In fact, I think it's pretty good. With lots of tight alleyways, collectibles to find, and jumps to take, the world is brimming with opportunity. While it may look fairly bland, practically it's a massive success, especially when it comes to its destructibility. Almost everything on the road can be destroyed. Signs, bus stops, poles, all fully destructible to an impressive quality. It makes driving through the city enjoyable, and thankfully, Vin is a silent driver. Wheelman has a lot of tropes of the racing genre. Optional races to take part in the city, bikes which are faster but more dangerous, a boost meter which incentivizes risky plays. And had the game stopped there, it would have just been another Midway shovelware title, attempting to mimic the hundreds of other races in the 7th generation. But the air jack feature elevates it just that much further. Parts of the game are unfinished, janky, or even plain awful. However, Wheelman is proof that Midway wasn't out of good ideas. If only the front cover wasn't drenched in Vin Diesel, it might have sold and received better. Although that wasn't enough for Blacksite Area 51 to succeed. "2007 was a big year for gaming. We got BioShock, Mario Galaxy, and most importantly in the case of Blacksite Area 51, we got Call of Duty Modern Warfare. In fact, Blacksite Area 51 released a mere 5 days after Modern Warfare, yet the disparity in quality is astonishing. Blacksite Area 51 shares a similar name to that of Midway's earlier work, the much better received Area 51, yet its connection is a slim one. Any discussion about this game has to be framed in relation to its year of release. Functionally, Blacksite is fine. Its guns shoot bullets, the enemies shoot back, and on a surface level, enjoyment can be found. But what is there that Blacksite has which would really entice players away from the wildly successful Modern Warfare? Are its guns more realistic? Is its single player offering more interesting? Does it introduce any deep characters or ideas? No, not even close. But is it fun? No, it's not. Blacksite is a mess. Of course it is. After all, its creative director Harvey Smith said development was effed up, and that the game was disastrously off rails only a year before release. However, Midway made the executive decision to force a late 2007 release date, even in its rush state and with its release coinciding with the biggest shooter of the year. Good job, Midway.
Was a stupid design.
Its unreleased state is most obvious when digging into any aspects of the gameplay. The guns may shoot bullets, yes, but the Plants vs Zombies pea shooter sounds more dangerous. The enemies do shoot back, yes, but they lack any sense of thought or clever AI. The aliens actually have some pretty cool and original designs, but lack any difference in functionality. The game just feels hollow, even more so than most COD clones do. However, the game does have two minor aspects which at least somewhat distinguish it from its competitors. Firstly, its destruction system. The game does offer elements of destructible objects in the world, which go a long way to give some sustenance to the gameplay loop. Walls can be crumbled in a flurry of bullets to flush enemies out of cover, and it feels like an early prototype of something really awesome. Had it been given more time, it could have really elevated the experience higher. Sadly, the same can also be said for the other aspect of the game, which gives it some individuality. The team morale system. Throughout the game, you're given at least 2 AI-controlled squad mates which can be ordered around at the press of a button. While this often boils down to press on this door to open it, the system isn't too bad. Where it is actually pretty good is in its ability to affect moment-to-moment gameplay. By fighting well, hitting headshots and not taking too much damage, etc., the team morale can rise. When morale is high, your squad mates can fight better. This is an interesting, realistic way to incentivize good play, much like how a combo system does. However, the effects of this feature aren't felt a great deal in the heat of combat. Often, your teammates will just shoot things regardless of the morale. Whether or not they fight harder is indistinguishable. Had there been a morale meter, or if they used different guns depending on their morale level, this system could have been a massive success. Sadly though, it sits here, an interesting yet underutilized concept, ripe with potential. Sections of Blacksite Area 51 are unbearable to get through. Constant turret sections, stupid childish humor, and even more turret sections but in a tank. These parts create an overall experience which is not only boring but actually challenging to sit through. The game feels rushed in a way that very few games do. Anthem feels like a more complete package, and it's really a shame. There are some cool ideas here, but sadly, it's as if they were only implemented days before release. And knowing Midway's management, that really could have been the case. But what if Midway was given the time by their management to see these ideas to fruition? What if they were given the money they needed to make something amazing? What if the same team behind one of Midway's greatest games was given this time and money? Well, then you would get Stranglehold. The past two games I've discussed in this video have a common thread between them. Other than being reviewed poorly, they are both imitations, clones of games much more successful than themselves. Stranglehold is no exception. The game is clearly inspired by Max Payne in combat, but more than that, its influence from its director can be certainly felt. By some stroke of luck, Midway were able to get the legendary director John Woo to direct the game, along with his newly formed studio Tiger Hill Entertainment. Together with Woo, they were able to create a game which perfectly translated his signature Hong Kong action film style into the gaming medium. They even went as far as to get Chow Yun-fat to reprise his role as Inspector Tequila from Woo's hit film Hard Boiled. This seemingly random mix of influences and developers somehow combined to create Midway's final chance at redemption, and they were going all in. Spending over $30 million over its development, it was clear that Stranglehold was Midway's last attempt to make up for all of its prior mistakes. If Stranglehold failed, then the company would go down and its reputation tarnished forever. Stranglehold is far from a bad game. In fact, I would say it's a pretty great one. Marrying Max Payne-style gunplay with the Hong Kong action spectacle is a match made in heaven. The general gameplay loop goes as follows. You enter a room, enemies enter through doors in waves, and you have to use the terrain around to kill them. While the simple premise isn't exactly groundbreaking, each of these aspects are incredibly fleshed out. The guns have a lot more hit than they did back in Blacksite, spewing blood from enemies and feeling intuitive. Rooms offer many different opportunities to the player, such as interactable slides, swings, and cover, which make them fun to stay in for extended fights. Midway continues to innovate on their destructible environments, with each level eventually becoming adorned in broken glass and splintered wood once the fighting ends, and the spectacle in the game really is unmatched. During gameplay, you can activate abilities aptly named after the protagonist, Tequila Bombs. These vary from simple slow-mo shots and unlimited ammo to performing a death tornado. This gives the action to the player directly, almost as if they are the director of their own John Woo film, and I think that's the point. Take the standoffs that happen at regular intervals in the game. The player must dodge incoming slow-mo shots coming towards them and shoot the enemies that surround them. While these do break the flow of gameplay, they are imperative to the feel of the game, and feel like they were crafted by Woo's hands themselves. The story isn't a complicated one, and feels right out of a John Woo film. Featuring rival gangs, forbidden love, and lots of shooting, it feels apt for a game of this caliber. It's a shame really, because after Stranglehold, Tiger Hill and Woo went on to create no more games, leaving their catalogue to consist of purely Stranglehold and some random mobile game. With a style that feels so perfect for the gaming medium, we could have seen a lot more from the mind of John Woo, but I guess we'll have to settle for his amazing films. The game really is brimming with originality and personality. In one mission, the player must place guitar cases of ammo around the level before the enemies come in. This changes how the player must interact with the space, and cleverly plan where they're going to be frequenting as they run around. Another level has a band playing music, which you have to protect from gunfire, and that's what separates Stranglehold from the slew of Midway's shovelware. It's a shame that Stranglehold wasn't enough to save Midway, because I genuinely believe it deserved better. It innovated on the formula that Max Payne established, proved the efficacy of having a talented movie director work on a game, and showed that this old developer still had passion to make games. When it comes to the question of did Midway deserve to be closed down, the answer is no. Obviously not. There is never a reason for a talented development team such as Midway to go bankrupt, especially when it was clear they weren't done innovating. When I think about Midway now, I choose to not think about the countless disappointments, embarrassments, or failures, but instead their hard work in troubled years.